Okay, we're back again now. We're going to be looking at task 4 on this one. So it's just continuing with the spreadsheet that we used earlier, which you can see here. So you can tell, obviously, we've got to change our file names first of all because we're currently saved as a V2A. So I'm going to do that first of all, but it's also, by the looks of it, we're going to have to move forwards with our performance review, which is the third tab, the third worksheet that we have here. So let's work on this. So it says open the file. It's already open because I'm continuing from task 3. So resave it as course information v2b. So let's do it formally. So let's save as. So let's change it carefully to B. It's an Excel workbook and it's in the right place. I'm placing it in here, so I've got all my previous files still in here, and this one is just extending it. So let's make sure we save that. And I just check at the top, it's saved it now to V2B. So that's all done. So it says apply the same or similar formatting to the performance review worksheet in order to separate the yearly groups. So what we're doing here is the same thing over again, which is a little bit annoying. So we could, there are ways around this that we could use. So we could actually link, but then the data is the same. You could potentially, how could we do this? Yeah, we'll just have to do it. So the sort is the first thing that we want to work on. So we'll just sort this lot first of all. So data and then click sort. Okay, again we want it by year group first and then course name. So we'll start with the year group from A to Z, and then we need to add a level. Then by course name and then A to Z. So we prioritize year group and then by course name. So we click OK. So that is that. Then we need to insert here. So I'm going to right click and insert. Right click in there and insert another row. Right click in there, insert another row. I think what I'm going to do here is that I could literally just copy and paste this. So copy that, paste it in here, just a standard paste. Year 1, total, year 2, again total, year 3, and then total, year 4. So let's do that. Just bolden those up as we did before. It says similar, so it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same, but something similar needs to be done. So let's put the formulas in here first of all. So equals sum. So we're just going to put in those, drag those through to there. This all needs to be bold as well. So let's bolden that. Equals sum. Just shows how quickly really you can get through this when you need to. Equals sum, open bracket, colon. And again, you can copy those along, make those bold, and here as well. If you might have a shortcut method for this, but it needs to be linked, which is one of the issues. And linking only really carries through the data, it doesn't actually bring through the formatting on it, but I suspect there's a way of doing it. Let's do format cells on this, so it's a percentage to 1 decimal place. So that is there. Let's just check what else we did. So we inserted annual percentage along the top. And we can just use the format painter to do that. In here we were doing a so is that right? Let me just check. Yeah, that is right. Okay. So equals that divided by that equals that divided by that equals that divided by that. Okay, let's just change these now to, again, percentages with 1 decimal place. I mean, should be able to do actually, so you can actually do all 3 of them at the same time. So format cells percentage 1. Okay, and I did that using the control key to highlight them. So rather than, if you hold shift, it highlights a range of cells. Okay, but if you hold control down when you do this, you can actually highlight multiple cells. Okay, which comes in handy for what we've just done. Let me just check that's right, because it's starting to look as though it might not be. No, that is right, that's fine. Okay. So let's quickly also add the highlighting onto the conditional formatting. So let's do the greater than first. So we said 99.9% is the boundary for green. Okay, and again anything for red. So less than 100%. Fill with red, that's right. So let's do the same there. Oh, formatting. Greater than 100% is green, and anything that is less than 99% is red. So again, less than 100% is red, and again, keep going. It's a bit long-winded. So fill with, and just quickly, it's greater than 99.9%. Has to be red, is that right? I think I messed that up. Let's try again. Okay, where it's greater than, it's green. Okay, and where it's less than 100%, it is, that's correct. No, not dark green, it's red. There we go. Let's just check how we're doing. So we just need to quickly do these ones under annual, so I will do those as well. Let me just do the whole lot in one hit, see whether we can get that to work. So where it's greater than 99.9%, it's green. Okay, and where it's less than 100%, we can do it with red. So we could have probably done this all in one hit then. If I'm using the control key, I can actually highlight these ranges of cells and do them all at once. rather than doing it 4 times. So that's probably our way of speeding the process up a little bit. So I might try that next time. So we've applied similar formatting there, so it's pretty much the same. Have we deleted anything out? No, we didn't. That's fine. Let's zoom in for action. Right, so in performance review, so this is the one that we're in at the moment, copy or recreate the formula used for the annual percentage column in the yearly statistics work, which we've done, and replicate the conditional formatting, which we've done. Replicate the totals for the other columns, which we've done. Create 2 additional columns to the right of the existing data with the heading names eligible and performance points. So and performance points. So let's just continue with our format painter. We can actually just copy those across like so. Now I'm thinking here with the performance points, there isn't going to be a great deal put into here. It's not going to be very wide, so I'm just going to do something here. So I'm going to create along the heading here. Our performance points is actually in J2. There's actually nothing in K2. So if I click on K2, there is actually nothing in here. But our performance points is actually in cell J2. So what I'm going to do for all of these headings is go to my format cells and I'm going to wrap like so. So it basically double stacks that word up there now. So it means that I don't need to have a very wide column. All right, I can move the positions of everything here with in the alignment area of home. You can middle it like this, or even top it like that. So I might leave it as middle. That kind of makes sense. That's probably the best bet, really. Any other changes I can make right now? Probably not. The position of them in the cells here is all left aligned. So I'm thinking what I might do is with these, I might center them. And I'm going to leave that one perhaps on the right. So this one's on the extreme left, this one's on the extreme right, and everything in between is in the center. So that's just personal preference. It might not work, but it's something that you don't have to do, but it just shows that I can use the alignment on this. I'm not going to do anything crazy like 45 degrees or anything like that at the moment. So let's just carry on going through. So in the column eligible, against the course in each, create a logical function, okay, that returns 1 if the passing target has been met, or 0 if it hasn't been met. So this should be probably an if statement. Okay, now we've looked at if then else's when we were doing mail merges. We had to put a rule in there, and this is very similar. So we're going to look at something, and based on what we're seeing, we will put either a 1 in there or a 0 in there, which is a typical sort of use of the if statement. So let's try and put something in for that. So we'll start with the first one and get that right, and then once we've got it right, we can copy it down. So I'm going to start with the if equals, the equals if. Okay, it's recognized it there. I'm going to write my own, but you might have a different way of doing this. So I'm going to open the bracket to continue with this, and I'm going to look at, so let's just check what we're looking at for each of the year groups. To create a logical that returns 1 if the passing target has been met. Okay, so the pass target has been met based on the percentage. So if G3, okay, is basically greater than, so greater than, oh, hang on a minute, so let's use greater than, so if it's greater than 1, the reason we use 1 is because 1 in this column would be 100%, so we're not putting 100 in there, we're using 1, which might seem confusing, okay, but when you're doing a percentage, so you're looking at 0.5, for example, is 50%, 0.75 is 75%, 0.99 is 99%, and then it clicks over to 1, a whole number 1 is 100%. We're currently, with this one, we're at 127%. So anything over 1, okay, we need to put into this this cell that we're in at the moment a number 1. So we use a comma and then 1. And if it's not 1, we put a 0 in there, so it's a comma 0. So at least that's looking good at the moment because I know this one's over 100%. So it's given me a 1, which is what I need to get. With this one here and this one here, it should be a 0. So we'll copy down the formula. Yep, so we got 2 zeros. The next one along is probably a 1. Next one is a 0. So I'm just testing as I go along here. And the next one should be a 1. So that tells me that it's working. All right. So I now need to, if I copy it down here, it's going to put a 0 in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it all the way down. And then I'm going to delete out that one, and that one, because we're only looking at the percentages here, not in here. This one, this line here is not relevant, and neither is this one. So that kind of works now. So we've got zeros and ones in here, and if you look at the top, we've actually got a working. So we're using an if statement in there. So we need to put totals in of the numbers. So we've got to use we're going to have a think about how we're going to do this. So we need to count basically the number of ones. Which we may have to do in a minute. So I'm going to leave that one for a moment. And perhaps let's just experiment with that. So counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. So if I let me see what happens here. Okay, that's not going to work. I'll have to look at that in a minute. I'm going to have to try and count these up. So where I see a 1, I need to count the number of times I see a 1, and that's probably using a count, but I'll check that in a minute. Okay, the performance points is the one I'm concerned with now. Okay, so this is quite a biggie. This is quite hard going. So in this one, you're going to be using a SUMIF. Okay, which is an interesting one to use. Basically we're looking to use a way of returning the amount of percentage points for each course for the year, rounded to the nearest whole number. I mean, we can do that afterwards. So, okay, let's look at this then. So, let me just work this out. So, let's look at, based on this, so is it eligible? points rounded to the near whole number. So you get points based on their performance. This equates to 10% of the difference between the target amount and the past amount. So we're looking at that one there. So where we're seeing so in this case here, we need to be looking for the text. So I'm going to put it in, I'm going to use speech marks just to see whether this works, because I can't use where it's less than 0. Hang on, that's 0.0, let's use a 0 and then close that. That might work. Which is fine. Let's work through this. So I need to obviously multiply the other bit. So I'm going to use an asterisk or a star or a multiply in there, open my brackets, and we need to look then at the number of people passed overall. And then we need to take that away from the target number. Okay, I'm using my brain. And then we need to put it into a format that helps us put it in there as a percent. So let's work that out. So times it's 0.1, isn't it? Let me just take a quick look at that one more time. This is 1. C3 times 0.1. Okay, right, let's see what happens. 26 points. Let's try and work this out now, just roughly. Equates to 10% of the difference between the target and the amount. Okay, so we look at 27. So 10%. Yeah, that kind of works. This one here should probably be a 0 because there hasn't been any points awarded. This one will be a 0. This one should be a result of some sort. And it kind of makes sense that the points are actually higher because this was 132 over 127. So the next one's going to be a 0. This one here is going to be 5 points. Yeah, 5.2. So that does kind of work, but it's very, I would say that is quite hard to do if you've literally been doing formulas and functions at level 2 and you come up to do something like this. So this is what we call a SUMIF, which you don't use very often at all, but it allows you to tally up things and look at things and then to be able to do something on them based on what you're seeing here. So all we're doing here is basically coming together and creating, this is our 10%, so we're doing the maths. I'm not sure whether you can see this or not. I don't know if I can actually make that window bigger. I can't. So you're looking in I3, looking to check if it's a 0, or you could do it as a 1. Either way, it doesn't matter. But where you've got something that's greater than 0, so like anything like a 1, for example, then you've got to then do the maths. You multiply. You've got to take this minus that and what the difference is between the two, and then when you've got that result, you have to multiply it by 0.1, which is 10% effectively. So that isn't particularly straightforward in terms of something you're going to do. So the fact you've had a bit of help in this is probably a good thing. Okay, common performance which returns the amount of performance points for each course for a year rounded to the nearest. That's fine. Insert a function which returns the totals of the performance points for each yearly group. Okay, so for this one here, we've got to do just an equal sum, I think. So let's try that, and we'll just tally these up. So So that one's got 50 points. That's 27 points. 26 points. 33 points. So I'm going to embolden these because obviously we need to make sure that these are all easier to see than they are at the moment. So I'm going to highlight a load of them and then bold them up. I'm looking at this now and thinking, well, it doesn't tell me how many decimal places there needs to be here. So I'm going to use some common sense and just take a look. So I'm going to round the points up. That kind of makes sense. So if I right click on those, format cells, they're just points, so they're just numbers. And I'm going to put 0 decimal places. Okay, so that is our performance points, and it kind of makes sense. So if we find the largest percentage, so 132 is 25, 131 is 26, so there is something weird going on. I got 26 points there and 25. Why is that? Oh, it's based on these two figures here. Okay, which is why. So what is the difference between the two? So that kind of makes sense. And this one's 33. Okay. But that's basically worked out the points for us. So yeah, just that's kind of it. So we need to just quickly, once we've given ourselves a headache doing that, you need to save it. So save it as a workbook file. So just check that we're on 2B, which we are here. I'm just going to do a file save as on this, just to check. So that is correct. So just click save. Yep.